Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Speak to the Author. Glad to see you today. Can I suggest one thing? Can everybody come forward? Please don't be frightened. I'm not by You want to what? We've got some more spaces, we've got more chairs at the front here. Okay, so welcome to Speak to the Author, and I'll just explain what it's all about and how, I came up with the idea that we should have a Speak to the Author. Today we've got 4 authors who are going to be presenting to you. I'm one of the 4. And the thing is this: a lot of people write books. A lot of people have something important that they want to say, something powerful that they want to say, and they write books, or they have a scrapbook and they write it. And maybe they've been doing this for years. And they finally come to the conclusion, I'm going to publish this. I'm going to go out and do this. I'm going to get it published. So they get it published. But it sits on somewhere like Amazon for 2 years. And nobody really sees it. What's missing? You need somewhere, you need a platform, you need something like Speak to the Author, where they can come up here, stand on this stage, belt out a good old talk, express themselves, share their journey, share their book, their work, and get people to learn about what their message is, and get their books out there, get people buying their books, people reading their books. What's the point in having a book and it's not being used? You want your book to be maxed out. You want your book to be worked out, to be used, read by lots of people, changing their lives. I mean, for God's sakes, you've put time and effort in creating the thing. You've spent money, right? All of us authors here. So it needs to be shared. And this is the platform to do it. And hopefully there's many other platforms out there as well that will do the same thing. But I find as an author, over the years, it's been far and few. And I think we need more. So that's why we've got Speak to the Author. And this is for, even if some of you are like-minded authors as well, or you're planning to become an author, I think every one of you has got a book inside of you. You just haven't taken it to that stage to go out and do it. Hopefully when you see us authors do our book readings and our presentations tonight, you might decide, okay, right, been waiting for this for a while. Okay, I'm going to do it, right? Why not? What are you waiting for? Tell your story. I think everybody in here has been through your highs and you've been through your lows, right? You've been through challenges, haven't you? Haven't you? You've been through ups and downs. There's a lesson in all of that. There's something that's happened to you that could teach somebody else something, who's going through the same thing that you've gone through, the same challenges that you've gone through. And that is where the book is one of the best platforms to do it, yeah? And that's what this is about. So, so we've got 4 authors here today. So my name is Carl Foster, and I'm the author of a book called Self-Made, Finding the Goodness and Greatness Within Yourself. And we've got Dahna-Esther Fearon, author of Transition, How to Get From Here to a Place Called There. Also, Big Sis, Little Sis, Girls Club, which is a purpose journal. We've got Davis Williams, author of From Brotherhood to Manhood, My First Trip to Gambia. That's just 2 of 5 of Davis Williams' books that I've quoted here. And we've got Rick Tucker, Under the Flamboyant Tree, a dog Unchained. So you're going to be finding out a bit more than that. I've just given you like a little taste of that, but the authors will expand on that. So after each talk, we've also got Q&A. So this is where I want you to grill the authors. This is where you throw the questions at the authors. Don't let them get away with nothing, right? So that's where how did you get this? Right, that is your time. But without further ado, you, the audience, are the crucial part of this event. So, I need you to help me out here. I've got something for you. Take a deep breath. I've got a little exercise for you. Nothing too frightening, but I want you to follow my lead. So, when I do this, I want you to say, speak to the author. Okay, I just want to get your lungs warmed up, so that when you've got Q&A, you feel nice and relaxed and free to belt out some good questions. Okay, so let's test it out. 1, 2, 3.
Speak to the author.
Got any cans of Red Bull somewhere? Alright, let's do it a little bit different, a bit of competition, right? This is A. Can I hear hello, hey, A? Hey! This is B. Right, I heard something, right? Alright. Alright, let's try again. So when I say A, I want you to belt out, speak to the author.
Speak to the author.
I'll do a countdown, right? 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to have a competition. Can B be A or can A be B, right? I won't tell you what the prizes are. There might not be one, but let's have 1, 2, 3.
Speak to the author.
Better. 1, 2, 3.
Speak to the author. Yeah, they won.
There might be a little bit of a problem there. Sounds like a bit of competition going on there. The bees ain't joking. The bees is at their breakfast, right? Let's see if we can get A's. Can A's top that? Can A's top that? Let's see. 1, 2, 3.
Speak to the author.
Yes. Let's go. 1, 2, 3.
Speak to the author.
Right. Okay. I like it. Now, a team effort. Together. Can we do it? Are we ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Speak to the author.
Yes. Okay. So to finish off the exercise, we're going to get into the authors in a second. This one, when I say 1, 2, 3, I want you to say, yeah. You know, imagine you're in a Wembley Stadium. You know, if you're into football or anything, right? Your favourite team just scored a goal, right? How are you feeling? Yes! Right? So let's try it again now. So you don't have to say speak to the author, you just got to say, yeah, your team has scored a goal, right? So here we go. For the A's, then we're going to go for the B's. A's, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah!
Yeah. Right. Okay, for the B's now, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah!
Alright. And now, can we do it? Are we ready? 1, 2, 3.
Yeah!
Speak to the author. Okay, so let's get started. So as I said, we've got 4 authors lined up. I'm also up for myself, so I'm going to do tell you a little bit about my journey, and then we're going to introduce the second author in the lineup, and so on. So we'll start. So my name is Carl Foster. I'm an author of a book called Self-Made, and this is my book here. This is what I wrote. This came out in 2012. And although it's a long time ago, it led me to get into a lot of things, positive things, in terms of becoming a speaker, in terms of doing some coaching, in terms of supporting young people. And these are things that I never really dreamed of doing before myself. I just kind of lived a quiet life, work, family, that sort of thing. And then when I got into writing the book, it pushed me to do a bit more community stuff and get more involved and more out there. And it inspired me to see, well, what can I do? You know, I've come to this point in my life, how can I help somebody? And this event is a celebration of literacy. But as a kid, I couldn't read or write. I struggled with reading and writing. My parents were going through divorce, they were splitting up. And although there's 6 of us in our family, I've got 4 sisters and there's me and an older brother. I think it affected me differently. I don't know, I've had a chance to speak to my siblings and sort of say, well, brother or sis, how did it affect you when, you know, mum and dad was going through those challenges, when home life wasn't at peace, you know, when it was a little bit tense at home, when things wasn't going the way they should be? I never had a chance to really talk to them, you know. And we see each other from time to time, even now that we're grown, but the topic never really arises. I remember even last week having dinner with my sister, we didn't talk about that, you know. But maybe it's something we need to talk to at some point. But as a kid, it affected me. And I was going through a lot in school. I was struggling. I wasn't making my way in school. I couldn't read, I couldn't write. The years were rolling by and things wasn't happening. Things were not progressing. But how do you change things? You know, when life gets rough like that, what do you do to change it? How can you change it? You know, I mean, we had like special needs classes. We had, we didn't so much call them mentors back in the days. It was different. Things are so different now, the way we title things, the subject of things. But back then you had your support teachers and stuff like that. And the idea was to put us into a smaller group, smaller class, so we didn't muck about, and we would concentrate and focus a little bit better. Did it work? Well, marginally, maybe, but maybe not well enough. But I found the biggest change was when I decided to change. When I personally, upon myself, came to the decision that I don't want this no more. I don't want this. I want growth, I want progress, I want to see if I can do something about it. And how do we grow? When do we start to expand and progress? I think the human being grows through challenge. I think when we're in the comfort zone, I don't think we grow, you know. And because of my start in life, I was a shy, quiet, young person. And the thing that I needed was something to push me. And then one of the support teachers said, I think you should go to Dahna-Esther Fearon. And if you're a shy person, I'll tell you now, Dahna-Esther is the last place that you want to go. That's like coming out of the frying pan and going right in the fire. It is like very intense. And Dahna-Esther, she's passed away now, but she was responsible for like a lot of the actors that were in EastEnders, the Bill films, programs like that back in the day. She would put you on stage by yourself. You'd be like 13-year-old kid, shy as ever. She'd be on stage and give you a line, and you've got to improvise and create something out of that line. And that's what she did to me. And you'd have like a bunch of kids, and you're going down the line, the number one's gone to number two, you're thinking, shoo, there's about 3 left and it's me. You know? And that's how it was, and then finally it's you, and you're like, you know, you'd have to just go out there. But you know, like what I said, the challenge, it pushed me. It's survival or think. You want to survive. So, you know, folks, that's what it is. You've got to challenge yourself. And even like what I was saying before, if you want to be an author or you've got writing, don't feel scared. Challenge yourself. You know, write little bits and pieces, share it with somebody, see what they think. You know, see if you've got something there. You know, and then go for it. But I found through challenging myself that was what worked for me. And although I struggled with reading and writing, if somebody said to me, you're going to be standing on stage when you're older, talking about a book that you wrote, I would never believe that. But I would like for my journey and my experience in life to teach others that you can turn something that is a weak point into your strong point. You can turn it around, you can flip it around whichever way you want, as long as you're willing to go out there and make it happen. Okay? So I'm going to read a little extract from the book. And I've got 2 books here. So this is my books, Speak to the Author, the Self-Made, Finding the Goodness and Greatness Within Yourself. But because I wrote that book, somebody who wrote this book invited me to be a guest to write a chapter. And there's 10 other guys on this book. I'm one of the 10, right? Yeah, it's a lady called Sharon Brown. So she did one for the ladies as well, which had Secret of Successful Women, and then she came with the idea to do Secret of Successful Men. And because I wrote Self-Made, she asked me to join in and write a chapter on that. So sometimes when you do one thing, it opens doors and inspires other things to materialize. You know. So I'll read a few lines from here, and then you can throw some questions at me. So. This is when you come into the book, it's got Self-Made explained. And this is just like a summary of what I'm going to cover with you in the book. And so I'll start it here. So this book is about the challenges that one faces with oneself in order to achieve success in life. It's about overcoming the temptation to quit, the temptation to be sidetracked and discouraged by others, and about our inner demons which laugh at us and try to keep us stuck where we are. We may have the desire, we may have the dream, but do we have the willpower, the power and drive to win? So many big ideas today lie in the graveyard because the person who had them didn't stay on track for their implementation. They gave up at the slightest obstacles and they listened to negative self-talk in their own mind. Their friends and relatives perhaps didn't support them. They got discouraged and forgot the vision that excited them in the first place. To achieve your goals in life, you must be persistent and never quit. You must express drive and determination and a burning desire to succeed. You must have a powerful belief that you can win, and then surround yourself with like-minded people that will keep you on track. You can also ensure your success by unlocking the secrets to your subconscious mind, which will create a great life for you and the ones you care about. Your only challenge is you. This book will inspire you to take control of yourself and change your life for the better. This book is about remaking yourself so that you can be everything you should be. Now, let's begin. Thank you. So, that was the book that kicked it off for me. And, you know, got me challenging myself and pushing myself. So any questions in terms of what I've shared with you so far? I said, so any questions regarding what I've shared with you so far?
You share your book with your family members? Have they read it?
They have read it. Like, I'll touch on that actually. One of the, when I was writing and trying to put it together, you know, you sort of think of what is your why? What keeps you going when you're working towards a goal? One of the things that kept me going, I had a vision of me handing my mum the book. And at the time, the book wasn't even there yet. I mean, there wasn't even really anything happening yet. But I had this vision that, yes, I'm going to do this. And one of the things that kept me going was having that vision that I'm going to hand this book to my mum. Because my mum knows and knew more than anyone else the struggles I was going through at school. Because it's my mum that the teachers would write to and say, he's underperforming in his literacy, you know, what's going on, so to speak. So for my mum, it was like a major deal for me to finally be grown and then come here and hand her this book and say, well, I wrote it. Despite all my literacy issues that I had when I was young, I did it. So that was a special moment for me. And I think anything you're aiming towards, hold on to that vision and it will come true. In my case, it came true and it will come true for you as well. So. Okay, any more questions at all?
What did you do like every day? Did you make yourself write something every day, or how did you make yourself consistent?
I don't know, I think once I made the decision, so I had that light bulb moment where I think I could write a book. I started writing like just as a hobby, just doing little articles, little bits and pieces and things like that. And then once I made the decision that I wanted to write a book, then everything just went crazy from there. I just found my mind was just, ideas were just coming. I could be walking down the street, ideas, oh yeah, that could be like a good sentence in there, or that would be something important to put in there. I had to just take out my phone and just like type it in, and then when I get home, put it onto the computer or on the Word document and make up the chapter and so forth. So I found the passion, I think, the enthusiasm, all of that was what pushed me, I think, and also it being something new. I'd never done anything like this before in my whole life. This was something completely new for me to be involved in. So that was what I think pushed me. I was very excited. Yeah. Any more questions?
What was your biggest challenge or obstacle?
What
you encountered when you were writing?
In writing a book?
Yeah.
I think the editing side of it, the publishing side of it. There's a story behind the publishing side. So with the publishing side, I got a publisher, and they're called the Hot Hive. And they kind of helped me with a lot of the editing and getting it together and designing the whole front of the book, the whole all of that. They pretty much was involved. We kind of collaborated on that. And even the finding the goodness and greatness within yourself, that was through discussion with them. They said, do you have a subtitle or a hook title? And that's where that came. So we worked together for like about 2 months, putting the book together. And then by December that year, I didn't hear from them for about a good few weeks, and I was like, what's going on? So finally I got an email from them saying they went bankrupt, and the whole project went down the can, you know, and I was thinking, what's going to happen now? So then I had to just kind of, you know, go through my own philosophy, my own principles, and start sending out emails, and suddenly somebody said, are you writing a book, are you looking for a publisher? you know, I got a phone call from somebody, and I said yes, and they told me to phone this lady who was a new publisher at the time. She just opened up a publishing company, so I contacted that person, and that company is called that is Live It Publishing, yeah, and they said, yeah, send us the work. You know, they wanted to kind of start from scratch. They didn't really like the idea of continuing somebody else's work, but I was adamant that I was happy with where I've gone. I simply had one goal for them: get it over the line. That's it. We don't need to scrap and start from scratch. So they helped me to accomplish that, and then here I am. But that was the major obstacle at that time. And in that moment, I'm calm about it now, but in that moment, I can tell you it was a major nightmare. You know, it was rough. It wasn't easy at all. So. Any last questions at all? Oh, okay. Okay, I'll start with you.
Okay, yeah, so just first and foremost, thank you for your story, thank you for sharing that. Just out of interest, just for contrast, obviously you wrote the first book, which was by yourself, obviously you had creative control. You was commissioned to, or you was asked to do another piece with somebody else, which I believe was the self-made book. Those successful.
The Secret of Successful Men.
Secret of Successful Men. What was that like doing that? Did you still have creative control? What were the challenges around writing that? And how long did it take you?
Have the creative control in, like, just, you know, write a piece, send it to us, you know, create the chapter, and they might say, all right, we want a bit more to make it, build the chapter a bit more, we want a bit longer. And what I enjoyed about that was the collaboration. That was what introduced me to collaborating with authors. And indirectly, that inspired me to do this event here where I'm collaborating with authors as well. I enjoyed it so much, so I decided I want to do an event where it's not just me, it's me and fellow authors presenting, and that's what inspired. To be honest, that's what inspired Speak to the Author. Yeah.
Just quickly, just lastly, what was the time span from you writing your initial book to getting that to?
Ooh, it's a big gap. So this self-made book was written and published back in, it was written a little while back, but it was published in 2012. But the writing process started about a year before it was published. Yeah, and then the Secret of Successful Men, that was released last year Christmas.
Oh, yeah. So it's still serving you in the first book.
Yeah, yeah. So that's basically how that came about. Yeah.
Oh, great, thanks.
Okay. Cheers. And
I was going to ask about how long it took you to write the book.
so I started writing it in May 2010. I finished the writing process in June 2011, and the good old battle was getting it published between 2011 till May 2012. It was published in May 2012, and I can remember the publisher saying, "There's a man in the van with a bunch of your books trying to find your address." So it was you know, it was great. So, and one more question.
Was it easy for you once you put the book out? Was it how the reaction to it? Was it quick? Was it slow?
It was difficult because it goes back to the same question I said before. You got the book published, but then what next? Yeah. You know, so for a little while I just sat looking at it on Amazon and thought, that looks good, but you know, what now? You know, it needed something like this, like a launch. Really, you need a book launch. So you've got your book out. The next step, a big old book launch. Invite as much people as you can get, and do a nice old presentation. You know, record it, and you know, get the momentum going. But I didn't know anything about that time. I just simply was an author, a writer, and I just knew that part of it, the writing process, and not much else at the time. I kind of got to figure it out along the way, you know. So, okay, so so we're going to go into our next author, Dahna-Esther Fearon. Can we give a warm welcome?
Hello everyone, how are you all doing? Oh, how are you all doing? Good. So, I'm here, I'm Dahna-Esther Fearon, and I am the author of Transition, How to Get From Here to a Place Called There, and my second book, more like a journal, Big Sis, Little Sis, Girls Club Purpose Journal. So I was thinking, do I start with my story, or do I just start, you know, with a few points? And I just thought, let me just start with a few points that empower you, and then I'll take you back to how I got to my place and called there. So I want to first thank Carl for taking the time to invite me. He's worked so hard on this event, so thank you, Carl. So just a few points. I want to title this part of the talk, The Power of Vision. And I heard Carl talking about vision, and I thought, you know what, I feel like I'm in alignment. So before I go into who I am and how I got to here, I just want to give you just a few points, is that okay, about the power of vision, the importance of having a vision for your life. So the first and foremost thing, if you can see it, then you can access it. The mind has two abilities. Firstly, to replay the past, and the second is to pre-play the future. Your imagination is an indicator of the life that awaits you, whether good or bad, of course. What you are feeding your mind with is very important. Who you are surrounded by and who you lend your ear to determines the manifested results in your life. Adversity releases creativity. And for those of you, not all of you, but even those who are watching, if you are in trouble, I want to encourage you, you are not in trouble, you are in transition. Amen. Transition and life circumstances are the very transportation that takes you from your place called here to your place called there. Okay? So how did she get here? How did she sound so empowering? How did she get all these points to empower me in my place of vision and getting to my place called there? It was exactly, it was November 2014, so that's 10 years ago, that I was sitting in my living room and I suddenly had a moment of inspiration. I'm a Christian, I'm a minister, an ordained one at that, and it was a time when I was going through major hardship. I just graduated with a law and psychology degree and nothing at all was working for me. And I was thinking, okay, God, here I am, I'm unemployed, don't have anything to put to my name, what do I do? And literally, I had like an empty diary in my living room, and I just suddenly felt the need to just start writing. I started talking about my experiences, all the things, the hardship I was going through, and then what turned into maybe one page turned into the whole book. And then I realized I ran out of space, I had no more books to make notes in, so I literally took my laptop. And I remembered from November 2014 to January 2015, I've written the first 10 chapters of this book. So what is transition about? The whole purpose of transition, for those of you who know, I think we use that word very lightly. I don't know if you've ever had conversations and you've heard people say, oh, just in transition. And I remember saying, what is transition? I hear that word being used all the time. I was only 24. I'm thinking, what does that mean? Let me take the time to research the word transition. And so as I started to research the word transition, not only did I find it wasn't just a spiritual word, it's actually a psychological word. And so what you will find when you do, I hope you do, buy this book at the end of today, you will find that transition, it is a three-stage process that every human being will go through. And when you think about transition, I started to research the life cycle of an eagle and of a butterfly. And you're thinking, how could you possibly compare your life to that of an eagle and a butterfly? Let me take you to the journey, and then I'll quickly tell you about. I promise you, you're not in class, but I just feel the need to share this with you. Is that okay? Okay. So an eagle goes through a process called the metamorphosis, and what this eagle does, it gets to about 40 years of its life. And it decides that, you know what, my wings aren't working that great, my beak's not working that great, I'm not able to fly as high as I used to be able to. So what this eagle does is it goes to the top of a mountain and it goes through a 40-day process called the metamorphosis. It starts to beat its beak against the rock until it falls off. And it waits patiently until it grows back. Very gruesome, I know. Then it starts to pick out its talons, its feathers, and it waits there naked until its wings and talons grow back. But something amazing happens after this process. Not only does the eagle gain strength, it also gains the ability to fly even higher. And it actually gets an extra maybe 50 to 60 years added to its life. And so it was in that moment as I started to research, because again, my hardship, the life circumstances that I was going through, it started to lead me to these moments of inspiration and things to study. And so I felt in my heart, in my mind, and as Christians say, I felt it in my spirit, that, this is a journey I'm about to go through. Okay, I don't have a beak, I don't have wings, I don't have talons or feathers, but I sensed that I was going to go through one of the most challenging seasons of my life. But I also had the power of vision. I started to have visions of where I was going to end up. And so with that revelation that I had about my life and the journey I was about to take, I was actually located in Nottingham. I was located in the city of Nottingham, Nothing was working for me. The bills was going high. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to give up my apartment. It was a beautiful apartment, very big at that. I gave it up and I said, you know what, there's nothing here for me, and there was nothing in London. At this point, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I did something crazy. I told my siblings, I told my friends, I'm about to pack my suitcase and go. They're like, Dana, where are you going to go? I don't know. I just know I need to get out of Nottingham. So on February the 24th, 2015, I packed my one suitcase, one handbag with £9 to my name. I got on a train and I came to London. I said to one of my friends, look, I'm about to make a crazy decision. Are you with me? She's like, girl, you crazy. We're all talking about you, we're gossiping about you, you're crazy. But just come. I came, I was on her sofa for 7 months. Everything I tried to do in that 7 months, I failed. Every home I was about to rent, it just kept falling through. And I was like, God, why is it that everything I'm putting my hands to just keeps failing? So literally for 7 months, I tried to get a job, nothing was working, but something unique was happening. Remember, I started talking about the power of vision. So in that 7 months, I kept having this recurring vision. I kept seeing the skyscrapers in London. So, you know, Canary Wharf, well, how Canary Wharf looks now. When I moved to London, Canary Wharf did not look like that. So I kept having visions of skyscrapers, I kept seeing the Gherkin, kept seeing the Shard, and I'm just like, okay, that's London, but what's that got to do with me? And you know what's crazy? As the years went by, this recurring vision kept happening between 2012 and 2015. So for 3 years, I just kept getting these aggressive visions every night. I would go to sleep and I would just be looking at the River Thames and these. So I'm thinking, what is going on? And I remembered it was 2016 when I had a disappointing interview. I was called to an interview, and as I got off the train in Stratford, they text me and says, oh, we never received your confirmation. I said, that's impossible. You invited me to the interview. They said, well, as a result, we've cancelled it. And I thought to myself, okay, another punch in the belly. This was November 2016. So we're talking 2 years of back-to-back disappointments and failure. And I heard a voice, because I'm a Christian, so I know it's the Holy Spirit, said, I want you to get on the train and go to Canary Wharf. And I'm thinking, really? I just failed again. How are you going to tell me to go? Why am I going to Canary Wharf? As I got off the train in Canary Wharf, I'd never been to Canary Wharf before. And as I went up the escalators, and I saw all the skyscrapers. And I was like, oh my God, this is my vision. I've been here before, even though I've never been there in the physical. So I walked around and I was a little bit happier. And I decided to do a video on Facebook Live called Let It Go. And I started talking about how it's important to just let go of all the disappointments and be open to the new opportunities that were about to come. Hold on to that, put a pin in why I just told you about Canary Wharf. About 1 year later, in fact 2 months later, a door opened and, I studied law with psychology. So my landlady, who I just about got my apartment with, suddenly fell behind with the rent. There's a reason why I'm telling you my struggles and my whole business. There's a good story at the end of this. And she said to me, I don't know what it is about you, I can't seem to throw you out. I'm supposed to evict you, but I can't. My husband has a law firm, and I've just spoke to him about you. I don't know about you, I've never heard of a landlord doing that. But this landlady, she was like, you know what, my husband has a law firm, go and see him tomorrow, he has a job for you. And so from there, January 2017, I started working as an immigration caseworker, and I was winning cases and stopping people from being deported. So about 6 months later, I felt the urge, it's time to shift. In fact, let me not lie, I didn't feel the urge to shift. An agency who I applied for a job with back in 2014, they had held onto my account for 3 years. They said, oh, we're just seeing your account. Now, bearing in mind, between 2014 and 2017, I had applied for over 2,500 jobs, and I kept getting turned down. I would go to chambers, I would go to the chambers on Fleet Street. They were like, oh my goodness, you'd be an amazing lawyer. Let me take your name. You are impressive. The fact that you come all the way from Nottingham to London, we would love to have you. Never heard anything from them. And so this agency, they finally called, they said, we know we've had you here for 3 years, but we've never found a job for you. We've now found a job for you. So I'm like, oh my God. Because at this point, I realized that even though I studied law, I didn't want to be a lawyer. And so much to the law firm, the head of the law firm's disappointment, I said, look, I'm going to take this job. It's less than what you're doing with me, but I feel like I need to take it. And so I took it. Unbeknownst to me, thinking it was a permanent job, it was just a temporary role. So after 1 month, I'm back in the same situation. I'm thinking, God, what did I do? I've gone and made a mistake again. So from August 2017 to about mid-October 2017, there was no job, no opportunities, nothing. Then my phone started to die. There's a reason why I'm sharing this with you. I remembered when my phone just about came on, I got a call from the same agency. They said, we have just received a call from a role in government and we think it's perfect for you. Remember those skyscrapers I kept dreaming about? So I took the role. It was a temp role in human resources in this major government agency. And I said, okay, I'll take it. Now, what was amazing, I took the job, life seemed to be turning around. At this point, they were located in Victoria. So by January, there was this role that came up as executive support to the CEO. And I'm thinking, that's too big for me. I don't, and one of my colleagues says, have you thought about it? I said, I don't know, maybe. And then I finally made the decision. I stepped out by faith and I applied for the role. I'm coming down, I promise I'm not going to bore you. It's going to end good, I promise. And as I applied for that role, within literally about 2 weeks, I was supposed to start, if I was successful, in 1 month. But instead they said, you were that good, we want you to start by Monday. I had the interview the Wednesday. I started the job the following Monday. So I became the executive support and EA, executive assistant to the CEO of that government agency. Now, this is where it gets interesting. A couple months later, they said, oh, we're here in Victoria, but we've decided we're going to move to Canary Wharf. Do you remember 2016? When I had suddenly, when the Lord, as I said, a Christian, Holy Spirit said, go to Canary Wharf and I want you to look. Because this is not the end. This is just the beginning. I'm about to show you, I'm about to take you. This was 2016, so we moved to Canary Wharf in June 2018. So 2 years later, I stepped into the reality of those visions that I was having all those years leading up to that moment. And so we were on the 10th floor. I remember we were on the 10th floor and I was surrounded by the skyscrapers, just like the vision I had. Because in the vision I had, I was always looking out the window and looking around. I could see the River Thames, I could see everything. And so I was in that position for 4 years. Why did I share this with you? I want to encourage you, wherever you are, power of vision is so powerful. I don't care, and yes, I do care. They say how I say, I don't care, I do care. Whatever it is that you're going through, as long as you can see the future, as long as you can see the end, there is nothing that can stop you. There is nothing that can hold you back. From the moment I worked there, I was, privileged to be even at that, because that agency was very key, even during the pandemic. So a lot of you, when you watch BBC News or Sky News, you will see my CEO. I'm not going to tell you who she is, because I just want secrecy. But I was behind a lot of the scheduling. I was I was the main person who was in contact with number 10, the Prime Minister's office, MI5, oh, you don't put that out there, MI5 and all the other global leaders across from Japan, China, all over India. I was the woman that they contacted. I remember during the pandemic, I was cooking at 9 p.m. at night, and a call was coming in from Washington, D.C. I'm thinking, why would Washington be calling me at 9 p.m.? Oh, we've been asked to call the CEO on behalf of President Donald Trump. So it was my job to log back onto work and connect his office, his people with mine. So I was a hero for like a week for doing that. But the point I'm saying is that where you are is not where you will end. The power of vision. And so I think I've been talking a lot. So I'm going to read just an excerpt from my book. And I think I'll probably read chapter 6. Okay, that's not chapter 6. Okay. So it's a chapter that I titled Defining Moments. Defining moments are a point in an individual's life where their essential nature or character is revealed or identified. Defining moments often reveal the true character of an individual when going through pressure and extenuating circumstances. Transition is filled with moments of conflict which lead to defining moments. Conflict is the catalyst for change. So the more conflict you encounter, the more change is happening in you. Defining moments cannot be created, or one cannot manipulate oneself into defining moments. Defining moments choose you. Transition is orchestrated by God to take us from the promise to the possession of that dream. Defining moments are those decisions that you make at crucial points in your life. Here's the end of my talk. Any questions? Any questions?
I've been out of work for a few years and I've been trying to buy, and I wasn't getting those rejections. I'm not religious, so I'm not asking why, set back a mission, but what can I do to this process keep going, isn't it?
number one is rejection is your greatest gift.
Okay.
Rejection, I always tell people that rejection is just an indication that the opportunities that you're going after is too small. Rejection is, rejection is direction. It is a direction saying that there's something greater. I remember that day when I was rejected from that job, when they told me, oh, we never saw your confirmation, so we're not willing to meet you. And I remember hearing, because I'm a believer, and I heard you're aiming too low. And I'll just be frank with you. I kept getting rejected by so many jobs. I thought, if I could just get a cleaning job, I just need to pay the bills. Yeah. So that job I was going to was a cleaning job. Yeah. And I remember hearing a voice saying, you're too big for that. In fact, I could hear my landlady. She said, what are you doing looking for? Who are you? Yeah. You've done a law degree. Why are you're aiming way below, your potential. Yeah. So I told people, and I've been invited, and I said, people said, really, did you really get rejected by 2,500 jobs? Yes, I did. There's two things. It's either that there is a job with your name on it, or you're supposed to have your own business. Okay. All right. So so I think just going back to the to the drawing board and just looking at what is it that you have to offer. What solutions do you have? If you're in a place where you're still getting rejected, maybe you are the solution to someone's problem. What are your passions? What are your ideas? And maybe there is a group of people that need to receive what you have to offer. So maybe there isn't a job out there for you. Maybe you are the job, and you're the one who's supposed to give someone else a job. Okay. Thank you. You're welcome.
Can you repeat what that rejection? I love it. I have to have it.
Oh, so rejection is an indication that the thing or person that you're going after is too small. It is just direction to something greater. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Yes.
Within your role when working with the CEO,
yes.
Were there any times where you were asked to do something, but you weren't 100% sure of how to approach that thing?
Oh, yes.
So what did you do? Did you ask for help, or did you go away independently and research how you would
that is a very good question. So I remember in the beginning of my role, I had a director who was my mentor. Because he was in government for most of his life, so he took it upon himself to mentor me. And I remember him saying that literally, you are I don't know if he was doing it to be about ego, but he was like, you know how powerful you are. You are working for one of the most powerful people after, the Prime Minister. And so he would always say to me, give me key points of what I needed to do. One of my greatest principles I learned working in government, and I learned this the hard way, was the power of delegation. Though I was working with one of the most powerful person in that organization, I realized that I didn't have to do everything myself, that there was a whole, there were divisions that were assigned to help me serve them better. So I remember one of my assignments I had to work on was the CEO's international trip to India. And I was busting my head over, because the thing is that most of these countries that I was arranging for them to travel to, I'd never been there, but I still had to give them from A to Z, where to go, where not to go, what was awaiting them. Literally every minute had to be accounted for. That was part of my role. So though I'd never been on the street, I still had to find the postcode, where they need to get off, where they need to be positioned. And I remembered when I had to sort out the CEO's trip to India, the simple thing is visa, I didn't know how to. I thought, okay, I know how to do this. I've done this for myself. But it was really, really hard. And so, to be honest, it took me failing at that to learn that it was after I failed at that, my colleague said, well, there's a whole department that deals with that. So after that failure, I then realized, okay, I don't have to do this. Okay, they've handed it to me, but now I'm going to delegate it to someone who's actually getting paid to do that. So yes, rather than researching the role, I just learned how to hand over and delegate it to someone who was more qualified to do it. But then there were moments, like during the pandemic, where we had 5 minutes to make decisions. So obviously, how COVID happened, like how it transpired between. We were kind of told about it in government from January 2020, but you guys more so learned about it February to March. And so I remember meetings getting cancelled with high-level officials at number 10, and then being told you only have 5 minutes to arrange this. I don't know who I'm arranging the meeting with. Who do I go to? And everyone's panicking. Who is it? I said, okay, go to the email, scroll to the end of it, then you will find their signature, then you'll find the number. So yeah, every situation was different. And so based on the situation, then I had to then apply the right strategy. I hope I answered your question correctly. Yes, you're welcome. Anyone else? Yes.
I love the idea of transition. Would you say there's multiple transitions that people go through? Let me explain what they equal. When do you too much goes beyond that.
You go beyond that, and I'm glad you asked that question, because when I write this book, some people, they read the end of this book and they think, you know, I understand it. And I said, no, that's just phase one. This just covers 2012 to, I would say, 2016. This just covers 2 years of my life. But what has transpired in my life from 2017 to 2024 is still ongoing. And every time I think I've arrived, something else breaks down. So even now, where I currently am, I'm not in government anymore. But I'm in a job that is 10 times better than that role, and I'm getting paid way more than where I was before. So what I always encourage people, the worst thing you can ever do, and the key to failure, is conforming to the level that you are at and becoming so comfortable with the last success. You've got to keep going, because transition, life is about transition, it's about changing. And how do you know when it's time to transition? It's when everything around you stops working. Opportunities start drying up, friendships and relationships you start losing it. And you realize, okay, something's going on. So then that is your indicator. And I write about that, I talk about that, I think in chapter 1 and chapter 2, it's like things just start drying up. Those are the stage 3. You know, you've got spring transition, you've got winter, and then you've got autumn. So autumn, we know, leaves start to fall off, so that's when things start falling away. Then winter, everything is dry. And then spring, things just start growing again. So I think those are the 3 phases that you will go through throughout your life. You start transitioning when you die.
Transition is not transitioning.
Sorry?
Transition is also a word for death.
Sorry?
No, I'm saying when you said when you stop transitioning is when you die, but actually when you die, the word transition is used for when you die.
Yes, so that's what I mean. That's like the last phase, you know what I mean? Yeah, so yeah, in life, transition is about movement. So moving from one place to the next.
So we're constantly moving.
You're constantly moving, absolutely. Yes, yes. Anyone else? I think my time is probably way overspent. Okay?
Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
Wow. Okay, so, well done, Dana. Enjoyed that. Inspiring. So, we've got Davis Williams coming up next. Give it up for Davis.
I'm a little bit flued up, guys, so let me just get some fluid. Please bear with me. But while I'm doing this, would you please look up to the person next to you or behind you and just say, like, you look beautiful today. Did you guys do it? I said beautiful. I said beautiful. Don't forget to say thank you as well. Alright, so I've got some of these here. I'll take this book here. Alright, how's everyone doing?
It's fine.
I said beautiful. I said beautiful. Don't forget to say thank you as well. Alright, so I've got some of these here. I'll take this book here. My name is Davis Williams, and I do a few things. Firstly, Carl, thank you for inviting us here. I'm give Carl a round of applause. I very rarely tell people I'm an author, just because there's other things that I'm really passionate about. And I find by me creating, it helps me to release the IT thing, like clear the cache, you know, like just get rid of the backlog. So I tend to create a lot of stuff. So all the things that I've created here is just for me to deposit, just so you can stop asking me the same question day after day after day after. So go to my website, you know. But I'm Davis Williams. I've been working with young people in this area for about maybe like 25 years. I know I look young, I know. I actually work with young gangs, so you can imagine I'm not going to traumatize no one here, no mad stories, and there are some crazy stories, because I know you guys have your lived experiences, and I don't want to trigger nobody, I don't want to crying, because you can get that sometimes. But I work with young people in and around the area, helping them transition. Unfortunately, sometimes they don't transition because they transition, if you understand what I'm saying. They don't get to that stage for one reason or another. I think this was maybe in 2015, I've been passionately working with young people, young boys and girls, until a few of my close mentees transitioned. And I was just like, Davis, this is long. Why am I doing this? Why am I going to funerals and so on and so forth? So I decided, you know what? I need a career change. That was just the idea. So I thought, let me go on holiday and let me explore what's possible for me. So I went to Gambia. Anyone been Gambia?
Yes.
Yeah? You like it?
Yeah.
Yeah? Yes, I went to Gambia for the first time in 2015. Beautiful country, they call it the smiley coast. Everyone's smiling at each other, how you doing, you know? And when I was out there, it was a release for myself. And it was a release because I thought, okay, what am I going to discover? What is going to discover me? I literally went there with a blank canvas. And I remember sitting on the beach, I went there with my daughter, it was October half term, my daughter's 18 now, and this is a big girl now, you know. Tell me about myself, you know, my gosh. And I remember I was on the beach, and I'm naturally observant, so I'm a people's person. I love connecting, I love talking to people. And I remember I was just on the beach, just taking in the suns, and listening to music. And over there I just saw, on the beach, there were like maybe 25, 30 young black Gambians in a circle, and they were wrestling. They were just like, and that's what they do, bro. Like, it was really, really gruesome. And that was their training. That's what they do in Senegal, Gambia. Football's a big deal as well, but they do a lot of wrestling on the beach. And I was just observing, like, wow. After they finished, they went to the sea, they washed their hands in the same circle. One of the other guys got some food. They sat in the circle and they were like, here's some food. And they started feeding each other. And I was just like, they're like young boys, like 16, 15, 14-year-olds. And I was saying to myself, I've never seen this in London, ever in my life. I've never seen young people share food. I don't know about you guys, I haven't. You know, I see them they're like savages sometimes when it comes to food. I know what I was like when I was with my peers. I'm not sharing my food with you. That chicken is coming to me, you're not getting it. But out there, they were really compassionate, they were really loving, they were really caring. And I was just observing like, wow, this is different. I've not seen that from where I'm from. So naturally I went over to them, I'm like, wow, like, hey, I'm from London, how you doing? I've noticed like, you guys are really like, you got a good vibe, you know, like, I'm not being funny about where I'm from, I've not witnessed that. And obviously you have that cultural exchange. What's it like in London? So we're there talking, I'm sharing some of the horror stories in London, and they were like, oh my gosh, no. They were like, absolutely not. You know? I know some people normalize what happens here in the streets, in the UK, or in the Western world, I guess, but it's not normal. Out there, they've got a different mindset. Long story short, we had a conversation, and they were, welcome, take a seat, it's okay. You know, and they kept on saying, at the age of 12 or 13, they went through a transition, but that transition was manufactured by the community. That transition is called rites of passage. And the young boys were so eloquent in what they're saying. At the age of 12, my uncles, my dads, the brothers, they took all of the 12-year-olds, all of them, into the wilderness, where they were taught everything there is about manhood. I know growing up here in London today, I can't even go to some schools and mention manhood because it's now demonized, you know, it's like, it's murky. Let's not get into that, you know. But rites of passage. And with that whole process, these young boys were taught how to hunt, they were taught how to show compassion, they were taught how to self-control themselves, they were taught how to communicate, so on and so forth. After that whole process, they will come back to the village, everyone would celebrate. Literally, it's a celebration. The young boys have returned! Woohoo! Come on, guys! Woohoo! I'm joking. The young boys have returned, and now they can take their place in society. And I was like, wow, that's what I need. No one taught me how to be a man. No, well, someone did say, Davis, if you hold this and do that, yes, but that's madness, thinking about it now. And I know a lot of my peers experienced that as well. And I was certain that's what I needed. So, here we are today, 2024. Back then, I decided, you know what, this is what young boys need in London. So I came back here and I started my own charity called Manhood Academy. Manhood Academy is a charity, won awards, been on TV, blah, blah, blah. Not really interested in that. What is interested is we're helping young boys with that transition into manhood, which is crucial. You hear their traumas, you hear their they came. Now, one of the things that I decided to do as well, I decided in that moment that David, you've got to create resources for these young boys. I was talking and talking and talking with a lot of mothers who don't have partners supporting them with their child into manhood, or if the man is there, maybe the man is this Peter Pan, is a grown male, he's not got that adulthood about him. Does that make sense? Yeah? I've got a lot of friends, they look grown, but they're just like big kids. And their children look at them like, you're not serious, I don't want to be around you. It's like, it's not good in society. So, the first book, I'm going to go, not only was that whole experience moving for me, but it was moving for my daughter. So my daughter wrote her book as well. She wrote this at 9 years old. My first trip. My first trip to the Gambia, and she spoke about her experiences as well. She didn't do the drawings, but she done some little stick characters, and she wrote a little poem in here, and so on and so forth. And for my daughter, what was beautiful for her, when she went there, she really thought, Daddy, is there going to be lions on the street? Daddy, is it going to be wild? And I'm like, you need to stop watching TV. But we understand that all of us are programmed by something or someone. But when she was out there, she loved it. She felt so safe, and she felt so inspired that she decided to write this book. So that's that. The second thing that I decided to do was create this resource for young boys in particular. It's called From Boyhood to Manhood, and it's a journal, because unfortunately a lot of the parents I support, they will be like, I don't understand about manhood. Okay, get this. And then you can sit down with your child as a family and you can talk about some of these principles. And the crazy thing is, when you are talking about manhood, women can talk about manhood, because you talk about principles, you talk about values. Don't matter what your gender is, you can talk about respect, integrity, love, compassion, empathy, forgiveness. It don't matter who you are, you can be a good person. It doesn't mean you can't teach a young boy. But a lot of women, unfortunately, they remove themselves from that, because the narrative that women can't teach young boys how to become men, they haven't. What a woman might not be able to do, in my opinion, is teach a young male, which is different to a male about how do you hygiene yourself as a man, because you don't have the anatomy. That's biology. But in terms of the characteristics, it's all, we're talking about the science here, not the personality. Two different things.
But if you're a single mother... Could I
finish, please, Auntie? I know. And this is a new concept, because a lot of people think manhood and male is the same thing. It is not. It is not the same thing. Being a male is one thing. Being a man is something totally different. Manhood is all about your mindset. But anyway, I'm not here to teach, I'm just here to let you guys know. So when we do sit with these young people, telling them that yes, you might be a male, you might be grown, but to be a man, you have to be thinking a certain way. Yeah? And then what I started to realize, working with a lot of families, I realized that there's another thing that's happening. It's not only the young boys in gangs and everything else, but there's a lot of young boys and young girls of all ethnicities. I don't know if you realize, but they're running away from home. Have you guys seen this? There's an epidemic in London right now. Young people running away from home. I'll ask you guys, why do you think they're running away from home? We get a little...
Abuse in the household?
Say that again?
Abuse in the household?
Abuse in the household, okay. Anyone else?
They're not fitting anywhere.
Discipline, they're not fitting anywhere, okay. Anyone else?
Social pressures.
Social pressures. Carl, what do you think? Why do you think young people are running away from home?
Probably it's they're not comfortable at home. They feel the parents don't understand them, or there's some disconnect with their parents. They don't feel heard.
And that's 100% true. There's a narrative out there that a lot of young people are running away because they want to make money and la 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 la. When I sit down with these young people and you get rid of the bravado, you get rid of the ego, you get rid of the blaming, they will tell you, I only run away from home because I don't belong at home. They don't feel like their mum or their dad spends enough time to be like, how was your day? Talk to me. La 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 la. Not have you done your homework? Have you cleaned your dishes? And then there's no connection. So my last product that I finished, where is it over here? Where is it? I decided to, because one of the things that I didn't have when I was growing up, I couldn't ask my mum and dad no questions. If I said, Dad, A, B, or C. Don't ask me no questions. I'm a big man. You're a little boy. Stand in the corner. Like, serious. I couldn't ask him nothing. Nothing. If you can relate, can I just show your hands? Because, okay, some people, good. Yeah. For those that could, well done. Yeah. Good life. And my mum as well, equally. But what happens is a lot of young people that I work with, they will ask me, my gosh, everything under the sun. Because there's that connection, they know I'm not going to judge them. And what I will never do is, you know, I'm not answering that because they want to know the answer. I would sometimes be like, why don't you ask your dad that? And the look they give me is like, are you mad? So what I decided to do, I did create a book of questions for young people and families, but then what I decided to do is to convert it into these cards. So let me show you these cards. Actually, if I'll give you something to pass at the back, if you don't mind, it's okay. Yeah. I'm trying to make this interactive. Because what I didn't want to do is to have a book, and I don't really like being an author, even though I'm an author, I'd rather just sit with young people and uplift them. Can you take one and pass it at the back? So I decided to convert a book into these cards, so families can sit down at home and have conversations. So technically this is a book that is transitioned into a deck of cards. And they're called Ask Me, and what I'm actively doing with a lot of families is helping them reconnect at home. Have these conversations at home, whether it's around a dinner table, whether you're driving somewhere. And what cards do we have in the hand, sir? Do you want to read it out?
About us, it says, what do you want to happen?
What do you want to happen? I remember when my daughter asked me that question. And you saw the look in her eyes, because she knew, yeah, I got you now, Daddy, you know. And that led to a beautiful conversation, a conversation that we've never had before. A conversation that made us equal, not Daddy, big man, is asking you child questions. That dynamic is a power shift that is not always friendly. With this dynamic, it allows you, young person, is this your mom? Yeah, it puts you in the position that, Mom, I'm going to take that position of leader, of authority, and with your permission, and with love. It's not a debate, it's not an argument, it's questions to bring you closer together. All of these cards are family-centered. Whether it's your partner, husband and wife, mother and daughter, mother and son, grandparent, whatever it is, siblings. What card do you got? Mind leaving up your card, please? Oh, you don't have one?
I'll read this one.
Okay, that's fine.
How do you want to contribute to our family?
How do you want to contribute to your families? Can you imagine having this kind of conversations at home? So, I think I made the right decision to convert that book into these cards. So now young people can now actively, uplift their household, and also parents also have that ability. There's another book that I have that is not here, and it's called No Enemy Within, and that's the one that I want to talk about now. When you finish with the card, you can just put it back on the table and you can come and say hi. So, I am really good at creating a rapport with young people. I'm really good at creating that connection. I can go down to their level, I can do a bit of the gesture, I can smile, but there's a genius working in the background. And normally, schools will contract me, they would invest in me to do workshops for like maybe 12 weeks, 16 weeks. I'll go in for an hour, hour and a half. You guys might be in the classroom, the teachers will select you guys and we'll do the work. We'll have my PowerPoint presentation, you have learning resources and so on and so forth. I never forget the day. I remember walking through the corridor, imagine this is the classroom, and as soon as I'm coming through the door, like I'm over here, I could smell like body odor. Like it was some energy that was emitting from the classroom that was producing sweat. And I was like, what is that smell? I'm real. I know girls there as well. I came through the door, yeah, and I saw all of them gathered together. All of them were gathered together, looking in his phone. Yeah, so imagine you're just looking at the phone. Can you give him a back? He's doing good, right? Give him a back. Now, everyone, I knows at the door is watching, yeah? And you can see they were looking at, my gosh, and you can hear the commentary. And I was trying to make out, what are these guys talking about? Long story short, I don't want to be too graphic, but there was a critical incident. Does that make sense when I say critical? Is that graphic? Yeah. There was a critical incident, and these little boys recorded it on their phone, and they were glorifying it. oh my gosh, Davis the professional went out the window. I was mad. Because all of this investment, all of the time and the great work that we've done with these young boys, it made me think, Davis, are you wasting your time all over again? All over again. So then I'm there thinking, and now I'm here at the front of the class, and I'm telling you about yourself. And then I see him looking at me, and I was like, Davis, you gotta be hard, you know, like, should I calm you down? And they said, no, Davis, you shouldn't. And they said, okay, what is the play here? What is going to be the learning outcome? Because I believe that every situation should have a learnable outcome or a teachable outcome. That's what I personally believe. I believe in outcome. If someone throws you lemons, what do you make? Lemonade. Give me a round of applause. So I'm there thinking, and what I realize is, young people in their phones today is unacceptable. These are not phones. This is AI. You know that, right? This is highly powered technology. They shouldn't belong in the hands of young people without instructions. That is what I believe. Highly addictive. Highly brain altering. Psychological. These are dangerous. These are dangerous. I've got my nephew, he's been groomed by his phone. Summer holiday, hot. He's got his big jacket on, woolly hat. He's sweating. Oh, are you hot? Man's not hot. He's sweating by his phone and the algorithms and everything that he's seeing is, this is how you as a young person should dress. In a woolly, and it's hot, I'm there myself, it makes no sense. So I'm there knowing that these young boys are just on their phones, so I'm like, hey, what can we do? And then it came to me. This is what we're going to do, guys. I believe you lot are addicted to your phones. I believe that you guys are agents. I believe that you guys are robots. And I started creating a picture that they are in gaming. There's something that's called NPC. Do you guys know what NPC is? Do you mind explaining what an NPC is, if you don't mind?
I should have heard this. And I think the kids use it as a term to kind of minimize each other. When they, in your life, you're the main character. Like when you play the game, you play with the character. And NPCs are all the background characters, so they have no real agency. They just follow whatever program they
follow. Yeah, there is there. Nobody. True? Yes. Yeah. So I started calling them like NPCs. You know, and they started getting offensive. I'm like, you're an NPC because you're just following what the system wants you to do, and so on and so forth. They started to push back, and I'm like, yes, okay. Now we've got some. I said, okay, prove it to me. I'm going to set you a challenge. For 7 days, no phone. For 7 days, no Snapchat. I'm going to set you a challenge. For 7 days, no TV. For 7 days, no drill music. For 7 days, you're going to go blackout. 7 days, no nothing. Do you accept? Prove to me or not. What do you think they did? They stepped to the challenge. They did it. So I said, okay, boom, we need some accountability now. Give me your mum's numbers. Right there, the teacher was there. I phoned all of their mums and I said, mums, this is what we're going to do. Yeah, 7 days, I explained, I didn't tell them what happened, but I said, we're going to do a social media detox. That's what we did for 7 days. And off the back of that, each one of them had a little journal to write in how the days were. So we were just making it up as we went along. Hour and a half finished. Davis, now I need to leave. I've got another school to go to. Yeah, I've got business to take care of. See you guys next week. Make sure you do your detox. I went home. Went to the next school. Next week now, I'm coming to the classroom. I guess no beer. But I'm coming back in the school. I'm walking through the corridor. Mr. Williams, what have you done with these kids? In my mind, I actually forgot about the detox because I done it in a frenzy, in an emotional state. I'm walking through. Mr. Williams, bravo! Mr. Shepherd, bravo! I never forget his head. Bravo! Yeah? I went to the classroom now. And I'm like, okay guys. Oh, Davis, guess what? I said, what? We did the detox. Oh yeah, the detox. How did you guys do? Every single one did the detox. Not only that, but then the teacher came in and said, Davis, Mr. Williams, my gosh. Like, I mean, we've got a good relationship, so he was just like, these guys, and keep in mind, these guys were, you could consider, about to get kicked out of school. Yeah? For various reasons. Yeah? But throughout these 7 days, if I saw their report, tick, tick, A, tick, tick, tick. For that 7 days, they were on a mountaintop. they were like stars. According to their statistics, their numbers don't lie. According to their report, they were shining. All because they didn't have their phone or TV and so on and so forth. I felt so gassed. So gassed. I remember that day, and Carl, was something that you said. When I finished that workshop and was there debriefing, I went to my car, got my phone, I just started writing and writing and writing. It took me 6 weeks to create my second book. 6 weeks. I done the artwork myself, because I didn't want to rely on no public. I didn't want no one to slow me down. Even up to today, there's still a few spelling mistakes, you know, but it is what it is, you know. We go through that, you know. About 6 weeks took me to create that that book, which is called No Enemy Within. I've actually sold that. It's on Amazon now. I don't like my stuff being on Amazon, I'm being honest, but that is the only one that is on Amazon, because when I do have it, it just goes a lot quicker, because I know a lot of families have issues with social media. And one of the things that I will always say is that even right now, today's Saturday, tomorrow is the last day of my current group's detox. I met up with them earlier today. That's why when you phoned me, Carl, earlier about 10, I was delivering a session with the young people. And they will tell you, when they're not on their phones, they are amazing. Literally. If any of you guys have children, please, revise how much usage they have on their phone. I know it helps. I know that. Because, yeah, he's talking a lot. Hey, have this, be quiet now. Yes, peace. But what you're doing, yeah, is you're changing the trajectory of that child from awesomeness to an NPC. That follows what everyone else is doing. And don't want to leave the house, just wants a game all day, blah, 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 blah. That is not their destiny. I know, mums, you didn't go through all of that labor to give birth to a child to become that. That is not the deal. You want your child to be amazing, so it's so, so important that we monitor that. But yeah, so No Enemy Within, that's my second book. And my first book, I'm going to end with this one, is And Along Came a Lion. There's a quote that I love. Until the liar tells his own story, the hunter will always glorify the hunt. Have you guys heard that quote? Until the lion tells his own story, we don't hear the lion's story. We just know it's the hunter's story, because he's the one that killed the lion, right? So a lot of the work that I do, I hear a lot of perspectives from young people, whether it's white supremacy, whether it's Illuminati, whether it's religion, whether it's diet, whether it's abuse, whether it's police stoppers, all of these perspectives. So when I'm sitting with a young person, I need to be able to talk about all of these things. If you come to me and you talk about my car, I don't know nothing about that, it don't work. I need to be versed in everything so you can create that genuine connection. And this book is just a reflection of all of these different perspectives that, yeah, I will kind of deliver and connect with young people. So this is my first book. This took me ages. This was a horrible experience. This was like therapy for me. Just because it took about 2 years to create this, back and forth with the publisher. And that's why after this, I was just like, I'm doing it myself, you know. I thought that's more empowering. I don't know how the other authors felt, but I felt for me, it was just more suited, just because I work quick. I don't want things to linger. I want full control. I want to start and finish, because I'm always on to the next thing anyway. If you're an author and you've got one project to do, then maybe having an author or a publisher might work for you, because that's your context and you're not distracted, but I'm highly distracted. Highly. When I do engage with people, I always forget, oh, I've got books and stuff. That's not the focus. It's who are you? How can we create that connection? Because I know that connection is what it's all about at the moment. But anyway, that's myself. Am I right for time? Finished?
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, so that's Davis Williams. Feel free to ask any questions. My table's over there. And I've got 1 or 2 other books online. They're like more e-books, but I did bring them today as well. So thank you, guys. Any questions, by the way?
Questions for Davis Williams?
It's not really a question, but I've been following Manhood Academy for a while, and I just wanted to say thank you for your work.
Oh, thank you.
I found it on Instagram and it's really inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Any more questions, people?
I don't want to ask
promise?
a
You
question.
did a good job.
I want to ask a question, but all of the writers so far, there's a lot of stuff inside of me that philosophical stuff, if one might say. But on the point of the difference between the male and the man.
Here we go.
No, I said that. No, I said that. My eldest son now is like 43 years old, and I told him that at 13. Okay, and I gave him the illustration because he asked me what did I give him an example of certain things. So I do agree with you. One of the things in my life's journey that I have realized, and one might say I'm a single parent, and truly I am because there was never any help, is that how influential us women are
Absolutely.
in our boys' lives.
Absolutely.
It is a little bit of a, I don't want to call it a fallacy, but I think there's a lot of misinformation to boys that the most important parent is the father because it's male to male. But actually, I learned a lot about the connection between a man or a male and a female, i.e. his mother, when males have lost their mother's death. And grown males.
Yes.
And the effect it has had on them. And so through my life's journey, I've come to realize that actually the woman is the more influential one. And what I usually say to people out of my culture, the Jamaican, is that, I don't know what's happening now, but in Jamaica, in the community, if you're rude to your father, the community will beat you, but if you're rude to your mother, they beat you again. Yeah? And I think a lot of women, mothers, from my experience of speaking with them and them being, yes, a single parent, but I think that they don't really understand the power that they have an influence on their sons. So that's just a point I would like some of the women, not necessarily here, but in the world, to understand and perhaps put a little bit more effort and don't just say, well, oh, he's not going to listen to me. His dad, the dad is important, very important, whether they're looking out for them or not. I've never turned my children against their fathers, but I'm just saying that I really have realized how powerful our role is in raising our sons.
100%, I agree with you. And like working with young boys, like all ethnicities, is hugely challenging because you're dealing with trauma. They've seen things like, I was with a young boy today, he's 12. The things that you've seen, I'm not even going to repeat here. It's crazy, and society expects him to thrive out there. This is not happening. It's not. So it's like, what could we do? And that's where, again, it's really challenging. But one of the things that we really focus on with the young boys is like compassion and empathy. A lot of the young boys that I work with, I know myself growing up, I grew up a bit hard because I didn't get the love, I didn't get enough hugs. David, you got to be a man, you got to walk. So I'm disheartened. So when I'm speaking to girls or whatever, David, you're emotionally unavailable, I don't care. Like, I was just being my version of a man, which for me was about safety. It was about safety, I was in survival mode, so I wasn't fulfilling my full potential. And we see a lot of young boys like that today. The reason why they can do what they're doing is because, they've had to lock something up in their heart. We want them to release their heart, and we want them to show more love. And for that to happen, it's hard work, you got to bring them up to, you got to introduce them to what is challenging them, so they can get used to it, so they can surpass it. But don't want to go too deep. But I agree with you.
And that has to happen next time it's all of us. That tree has to be bent 24/7, ideally. After that it becomes very
Of course, bend the tree one shot.
And this is the message to parents, I tell parents that I used to talk to my children in the womb about how independent they ought to be, how responsible they ought to be. And I'm not bragging and saying that they're wonderful now, which direction they've gone. I'm just saying that's how spiritually it came to me. I didn't read it in a book, and I feel it's very important for the development. And I think the Bible, maybe that lady over there, that the age of 7, and I think psychologists say the same with sociologists. The age of 7 is very important. If you haven't caught it at that time, it becomes harder. Not impossible, it just becomes
more difficult, of course. let's not forget young girls as well. Young girls go through their challenges and their traumas as well, equally. You know, I'm not qualified to talk about young girls because I'm not a girl, but we do work with young girls as well. We identify and recognise their challenges. Did you have a question?
I was going to comment on what I said, but in your experience of working with a lot of boys, well, feeding on what that lady said as a teacher and seeing the impact of single parents, how would you describe the growth? Because I'm coming from a generation when I was at school, the vast majority of us had mummy and daddy. How would you say this new wave where I'd say the 90% of the children now, especially from the Caribbean culture, are coming from single parent homes, raised by women mainly? How do you feel that's affecting us as a culture?
In some cultures, there's this idea, and this idea, because everyone subscribes to it, when a mother gives birth to a child, that child doesn't belong to the mum, it belongs to the community. You know, I strongly believe that. Like, if my son was here now, like, he will tell you that. Like, I go everywhere from birth, and people parent him. He says, I don't walk away. He's like, do what you're doing. Like, it's cool, because I trust you. Do you know what I mean? But also, we all know this, the quote, it takes a village to raise a child. Who's aware of the second part of that quote? There's a second part. That's an incomplete. There's a comma and then it continues. Does anyone know? Because I didn't know that until I done my Googles. So it does take a village to raise a child, but if you do not initiate that child into the village, that child will burn it down just to feel the warmth. So we have to start including these young people in community matters. There should be young people here. You know, no criticism. I'm just saying. You know, I'm sure you invited them. I attend a lot of these professional meetings with social services, with children, and so on and so forth. Hundreds. And when I'm there, you know, you've got the social worker, you've got this worker, that worker, you've got the police, and I'm always saying to myself, where's the community here? Like, why is it all professional? And these professionals, they are very cold. There's no love, there's no compassion. It's just straight, you need to be here at this time, otherwise, blah, blah, blah. It's very straight. There's no love in that space. And I always find it challenging because the community is kind of kept out. You know, I have my own theories behind that. So one of the things I always say to parents is never isolate yourself. Create a network around you. And if you don't have one, go and create one.
But don't you think that a lot of the times, then a lot of women will then create a network of other women? Because if I say I'm registering a parent for a child, I'm seeing a whole list of phone numbers that I can contact, but they're all women.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was taught years ago is in the Jewish community, when a boy hits, I think it's the age of 13, into the
age, yes, it's like
they switch from the mother being that hands-on person to the father. Now, how do you think it's affecting a lot of our black boys, Caribbean boys especially,
David Williams. Wow.
Oh, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Okay, so we've got up next Rick Tucker. Give a warm welcome.
You still got the energy for another? Along with everyone else, thank you, Carl. Thanks for setting this up. Thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here. This is going to be a little bit different from what's come before. Not least because I'm a writer of novels. I write fiction. Now, fiction doesn't necessarily mean it's not true. It's just the vehicle within which truths can be expressed. I'm the author of 3 novels. 2 here, two which have been published, one which is currently in the hands of an agent, and if anyone's ever tried to engage with agents, they'll know how difficult that can be. But I'm hopeful for it. And I'm also writing I'm currently writing my 4th novel as well. Large parts of the first 2 books, A Dog Unchained and Under the Flamboyant Tree, are set in Trinidad and Tobago, which is where my wife is from and where I have visited many, many times, and where I have the most enormous family you can imagine. I'm going to talk a little bit more about Trinidad and Tobago later, but I'm going to tell you a bit about myself and my background and some of the themes from my life which have gone into my novels, into my fiction. I'm a former mental health professional, and it's really interesting listening to what David was saying there about how the people who should be engaging with a lot of young people are not present in assessments, decision making and everything like that in the field of mental health. And I experienced some extraordinary things in my time, 25 odd years working in that field, which I won't go into in great detail here, but it changed my life forever. So much of that experience of working in mental health informs my writing, as well as how I personally look at and deal with life. I've had to deal with my own mental ill health, so themes around mental health and addiction feature quite regularly in my books. Some of the other themes which are in my books, how we are brought up and how our early childhood experiences, which you mentioned there, about if you can sort it before the age of 7, you've done well. You can sort it afterwards, but often an awful lot of damage has been done by then. So how we're brought up, how our early childhood experiences determine how we may turn out in life and how we deal with the problems that we face and the people that we meet. Another theme in my books is that of creativity, what it means to be driven by this phenomenon that is having to be created. Why are we so impelled to do this? All my life I have felt that I have no choice in the matter but to be an artist of some sort. And the years of suppressing that, which I did, it nearly did for me and contributed to depressive illnesses. Another theme which comes, which I include in my books a lot, is that of morality, or rather the age-old human conundrum of what's right, what's wrong when we're faced with difficult circumstances, and how the way we respond to those difficult circumstances and challenges in our life can determine what happens to us and our loved ones for the rest of our lives. And another big theme in the books is the searching for roots. I moved around a lot as a child. I didn't really feel I came from anywhere. London is probably the place I would call home, but I don't really feel I come from anywhere in particular. Not knowing what your roots are makes you restless, it makes you wonder. And it makes you think, well, what is home? Is home a physical entity or is it a spiritual one? Or spiritual might not be the word you would choose for that, but it's a feeling inside that you have found somewhere where you're comfortable, where you can be you. It's not just about being in your bricks and mortar. And coming from being married to someone from the Caribbean, my daughter is now 38. She grew up as a mixed race kid who had an awful lot of problems with finding her identity. She struggled at school because of it. She had a hard time. And it was going to Trinidad and being accepted into this incredible community there. First time she went was 10 months on, we took her there. But she started to realise something about who she was and understand this sort of concept of what is really home. A little bit about the books, what they're about. A Dog Unchained is the first book I wrote. And it's about an artist, a white man who grew up in Trinidad and Tobago and then moved back to the UK. And he goes back to Trinidad to find friends and loved ones from his youth. He's a recovering drug addict and he's battling alcohol addiction as well. So the theme of creativity coupled with addiction, so often the two go together, it's also explored. In Under the Flamboyant Tree, Under the Flamboyant Tree is about a mixed race woman called Camille who lives in Paris, who leaves her husband and goes in search of her roots by travelling to Trinidad alone. And her romantic vision of how that will be is brutally shattered very early on in her visit there. And she has to take refuge with a great aunt of hers, an old woman who practices obeah, who then looks after her and helps her see what the real world is. And there's also a love story running through it, which is integral to Camille's story. Her journey is integral to her understanding who she is and where she comes from. The unpublished novel features a flawed, morally questionable, yet ultimately noble protagonist who experienced the traumas of war as a teenager and who must then use his bravery and humanity to resist the horrors of the eugenicists and the Nazis in the lead up to World War II. People with mental ill health and learning disabilities and those who weren't of the chosen race were subjected to horrific attempts at genetic engineering by the Nazis, and some incredible cruelty was carried out on people on some of the most vulnerable people in society. And so, with my background in mental health, it was important that I included that in this story. So I worked for many years in the field of mental health, mostly in secure mental health services, including prisons and young offender institutions. And I witnessed some things that I will never forget. I met some people I'll never forget. And I was exposed to some extremes of human behaviour that I didn't know existed until I had to deal with them. It was rich, it was inspiring, it was exhausting, it was harrowing. There was an awful lot of sadness and despair in people's lives, but also an awful lot of love, laughter and humanity. But also some of the worst injustices you could ever imagine. And I know I've witnessed at hand young men being brought into mental health units by the police, battered, bleeding, handcuffed, and there's nothing wrong with them. They were picked up on the street, hanging around with their mates, they gave the police a bit of lip, and they got hammered, arrested, taken down the cells, beaten up, put on a section of the Mental Health Act called the 136, which is the police section, I can't remember now how many hours it lasts. I think it's 72 hours, but it can then be easily converted into another section of the mental health act, which means you can stay for longer and be forced to have treatment and all sorts of things going on like that. And I'm not knocking mental health services. There's an awful lot of people who work in them who are brilliant at what they do and want to do a good job. But the system can, for no reason at all, turn you into someone who basically has your life taken from home and family and the streets into what ends up in secure mental health care. So it's not all hopeless, but you need good people working in those services. You need good people working in the community that link with those services. And it needs commitment. But at the moment, mental health services are being devastated. So you're getting people being admitted. The only beds for someone needing acute mental health care in London, they might have to go to Cornwall or Manchester or something like that, miles away from their family. That's been happening quite a lot. Anyway, it was a very rich experience. And when I had to retire on grounds of ill health, I was 55 years old, and I thought I can live all this time. I could for a while, but not for long. So I started to write again. And that amazing alchemy occurred when the unconscious mind and memory just flows out through your fingertips. And you don't have any conscious control. A whole lot of stuff starts pouring out of you. And I realised that there was so much still stored up inside me that it had to get out. I grew up moving around a lot, all of it within a loving but dysfunctional family. I'm going to be very honest about my background here. And within that family, I witnessed from a very young age mental ill health, and I didn't understand that that wasn't normal. I didn't know I was being deeply affected by this. I just thought what was happening was normal life, and that everyone experienced it, or at least understood it. How did this affect me? Well, it's a big question, but writing, painting, music, all came naturally to me. I didn't have the self-confidence or the encouragement from others to pursue it, despite getting into art school, playing in bands, writing reams of unpublished romantic poetry and stuff, you know. And I've battled with depressive illness for over 50 years now. I use drink and drugs to blunt that sharp edge and to suppress the traumas. And I had to fight in order to not succumb to addiction's welcoming and warm, but ultimately fickle and cold embrace. And that's a fight that never goes away. Now, Trinidad and Tobago is somewhere that has a deep place in my heart. It's somewhere I have many beloved and loving friends and family. Somewhere I came to realise something about roots and something about myself. My beautiful, inspirational daughter considers Trinidad and her family there as much as home as anywhere else, if not more. And my wife still considers it home, despite living here for over 50 years. I wanted to write about the richness of my experiences there, but I also wanted to write about the harsh reality of life there. You know how people who have never been to the Caribbean often imagine it's all about white sandy beaches, turquoise seas, lying in a hammock, drinking a rum punch, listening to Lovers Rock. You know, well, that exists, but it's one small part of life and culture. When I first went there in 1987, I had my mind blown. Trinidad and Tobago has a population now of about 1.5 million. About 35% of that population had Indian roots. They came from mostly East India and were brought over as indentured labourers. About 35% have African roots, who, as you know, would have been brought over as slaves originally. About 10% are mixed Indian and African, and then the rest are a whole mix of white, Chinese, Arab, you name it. So it's this amazing mix of cultures and roots. Venezuelans as well are now there because of Trinidad's really close to the South American mainland, and lots of refugees and migrants, something that we're seeing in this country, is also happening there. People fleeing Venezuela to get to Trinidad, and it's causing the usual problems. Trinidad is a small country without adequate resources to deal with. So my wife is of Indian heritage, in a small village where her family lived in the rural south, where Indians, Africans, Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Rastas and Christians all live. Often having marriages and families made up of two or more of those religions. We stayed in my sister-in-law's house. There was no running water from the mains, no flushing toilet, thin wooden walls separating the rooms so there was hardly any privacy. And if you needed the toilet, you had to use a latrine, which was in a field about 50 yards away from the house. And a whole other world in itself is in that latrine. Weird insects, lizards, you name it. You're sitting there and the things you see crawling around the room. Especially if you go in the middle of the night. You've got a torchlight with you. It's extraordinary. Anyway, my sister-in-law could barely read or write. She worked all week in the fields. She took her produce to market twice a week, up to her knees in mud a lot of the time. She was a fantastic gardener. She kept chickens and ducks. She was a devoted and loving single parent. And all in all, led such a tough life. One she never complained about. She remains my greatest inspiration. The most beautiful, humble, loving, hard-working, generous person I've ever known. And sitting on her back porch in the mornings, feeling the heat rise, with my 10-month-old baby daughter in my arms, was some of the most happy times of my life. I started to realise something of what home meant. There are people there who are as close to me as anyone, and it's hard, more so for my wife and daughter, who both consider it home. As I said, it's very hard to have so many loved ones so far away. But Trinidad and Tobago isn't the place it was then. It's always had poverty in extremes, but in recent times it's led to the familiar problems of organised crime, drugs trade, gang warfare. It's got a very high murder rate, and it doesn't always feel safe to be there. It often doesn't feel safe to be there. Yeah, if it was, I think we'd probably all be living there. I wanted to dispel some of the myths that people have about the Caribbean. It may be a playground for some, but for most people in many of the countries there, they lead a tough life in what is in many ways still considered the third world. And the third world, not as a derogatory term, but in terms of institutionalised corruption, the poor infrastructure in terms of public services, health, education, the judiciary, politics. But I also wanted to write about its beauty. The breathtaking flora and fauna, that amazing melting pot that is society there. The people, the food, the humour, and how I, a white man from a relatively privileged background, came to find a peace and acceptance there that I never thought would be possible. So we are a mixed race family, a mix of Trinidadian, Indian, Scottish, English, and now my beautiful twin grandsons add Jamaican into that mix. And there have been many challenges and traumas along the way. And no doubt there'll be more to come, but we're still standing and embracing that. For me, home isn't about the bricks and mortar, it's about the people around you, the people who secure you, those who are the constants in your life, who accept you for who you really are, to whom you can give love. And at the beginning of Under the Flamboyant Tree, I quote Leela Ike's song, Where I'm Coming From, where she says, when I think of where I'm coming from, looking back at where the journey began, I really have to say that I'm strong. I'm strong. So I'll read it from you. I'll just read you a bit from first book. The village, it's a fictional name, I gave it, Muga, and the guy who's an artist has gone back to look for his family and friends there. He's there, it's the first morning there in his friend's house, and he's sitting on the back gallery looking out at the scene in front of him. It was 6:30 on his first morning in Muga village. The temperature had already reached 28 degrees, and a white sun was rising slowly as he sat on the small gallery at the back of the house. He looked out towards the untamed bush. A solitary coconut palm swayed in the centre of the scene, and he started to construct in his mind a composition based on what he was looking at. Randomly placed houses, some at different stages of being built, some board, some concrete, some a mix of the two, but none built to any uniform design, size or colour, the most impressive of which was a large concrete structure of 3 levels, several galleries, a multitude of windows, and the exterior walls painted cotton candy pink. Then there were all the add-ons dispersed haphazardly around the houses. Black plastic water tanks, chicken coops, strutting cocks chasing hens, a tethered cow, a tethered goat, dog kennels, the rusted shells of cars, disused aircon units, a small gazebo consisting of 4 uprights and a tarpaulin top standing on a pothole driveway at an angle steep enough to be defying gravity, plastic piping, bricks, sheets of galvanised iron, barbecue pits, styrofoam coolers and crates of empty beer bottles. All around it and within it, and in defiance of it, nature had risen up with an unstoppable momentum. Coconut palms, avocado trees, banana trees, plantain trees, lemon trees, lime trees, mango trees, guava trees, pawpaw trees, and any number of other trees bearing fruits you didn't recognise or know the names of. And animals, lizards and iguanas, fluorescent in green, weird and evil-looking insects, and arachnids. Birds of all sizes and colours, from vultures and hawks to hummingbirds and the tiny Johnny Jumper, a black bird which sat on the stem of a long grass and jumped vertically in the air to catch flies. It was as though the human race had crash-landed in paradise 10,000 years before and still hadn't got a clue how to live in it. Time for another? Yeah. Just again, it's a similar thing. This is the lover of Camille goes in search of her, and he has a mate who's a Rastafarian called Israel. And again, it's similar to what I've just read. He's waking up in the morning. He thought rural Trinidad was as close to paradise as he had ever experienced. The colours, the dazzling lights, the apparently simple agrarian way of life, reminiscent of southern Europe, but with coconut palms and countless other extravagant displays of flora everywhere you looked, all so vibrant and fresh, had quickly seduced him into such a feeling of resonance and calm that he started thinking it was somewhere he could start afresh, turn his back on his long and vain quest for recognition, see it for the illusion it was, and find the peace of mind and space to lead a more honest existence. Why do musicians seek that acclaim? Addicted to the high of live performances, crushed by the come-downs, for him being a musician was like being an addict. Maybe it was time to break the habit. Trinidad was showing him something he hadn't expected, that when you strip life bare of its adornments, all the things the first world strives for in terms of materialism and status, the really important stuff, your true self, remained. If you couldn't come to terms with that, be at peace with that, then what was the point of it all? If you were strong enough to look upon your naked self and feel comfortable, then maybe you'd cracked it. It was a little after 6 in the morning, the sky was cloudless and powder blue, a gentle breeze was blowing, and the ubiquitous song of the Kiskadee was the only sound in the world other than a distant car horn or Israel splashing his body as he washed himself standing in front of an old oil barrel filled with water. A hibiscus with its blood-red flowers like trumpets grew defiantly from a rough patch of ground in front of the house, encircled by an old tire. The hummingbird, only about 4 inches long, its head and throat an iridescent green, its black like polished copper scales shimmering in the sunlight, hovered as though suspended by the gods, wings a blur of shimmering indigo in front of the flower's cavity. They had arrived there in the dark of the previous night, and the strangeness of the surroundings and nighttime sounds had initially made him feel the uncertainty of something a long way out of his comfort zone. They'd sat around the fire, eating rotis filled with curried chana, while sipping rum. "Where are we?" he asked Israel. Any questions?
Yeah. What did Trinidad give you?
Well, it gave me, when my father-in-law, my wife's father, died in about 22 years ago, he left 90 living descendants. Well, so I have nieces and nephews who are taller than me, people who call me uncle, who are big men, you know. So one thing it gave me was this extended family. They call it pumpkin vine family in Trinidad, you know, like it just, so it gave me that. There's so much. It enriched me to a degree that I feel now I'm half Trinidadian almost. You know, it's like I was taken in, accepted, loved, and just made. You know, I feared going there as a white guy, being the only white guy in the village. I feared, you know, I'd be very self-conscious. I would, you know, I wouldn't be accepted. I'd find everything really, really strange. But what I got from the start, from the very, very start, was this total welcome, openness, and acceptance. Literal and metaphorical hugs from people, and I've learned so much from it. And my daughter's coming to see it as her home taught me an awful lot. You know, and it was probably the best decision we ever did, was take her there as a young kid, and several times after that as well. So it's a big thing it gave me.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah.
I want to say that I'm a part of a child of the universal family, so everyone's my family. Okay? There's just no argument about it. Save the arguments, right? And at the beginning of your talk, you said something about fiction, and the thing that flashed up in my head, it's something I can't quite quote you. But my thinking, when people say, that is just science fiction, and they read a book or watch a movie, science fiction don't fly far from science now. So when you are reading an excerpt of this, that's the first thing. Fiction doesn't fly far from science. Every writer, fictional writer, has themselves in there. So when I was listening to this man, you know, Camille's, whatever, I wanted to ask you, when you were writing that, did you feel it was a part of yourself?
Yeah. Something happens when I write, and I think other writers it happens to as well. It is like an alchemy, where you have a vague idea of plot, place, you know, but it only starts to develop once you actually start writing, and then something else takes over. It's like an unconscious thing, an unconscious force, and that's what it's your truth coming out, basically. You know, it's like it surges up through you, and however long you've lived, your memories, your experiences, all the people, the tastes, the smells, everything, just start coming out. And so it is truth, and that's why I personally I prefer to write fiction, because it suits me in that sense. And you can one part of your life, another part of your life, you can bring it together in fiction, you know, and make it a new thing, sort of thing, but it's still speaking truth.
You plan to write any more?
Sorry?
Do you plan to write anything more?
Yeah. Currently, I want to do a follow-up to What Happens to Camille, but at the moment, I'm currently writing a book about the mental health services in this country. But it's a novel, again, it's a fiction, and it's telling the story of three men who, all about the same age, from different backgrounds, who eventually end up being in the same place together. One of them is a professional, a nurse, and the other two are patients, one of whom is incredibly dangerous, and that's a result of his traumatised childhood, and the other is someone who was painted as being dangerous because basically he was a tall black man who got arrested by the police, and like I was telling you earlier, put on a section 136, and thereafter started a whole career pathway, as they call it, into mental health services. So yeah, that's, again, it's this drawing on things which you want to forget about, but they come out, you have to get them out. Look, we've done that. Oh, sorry, I'm thinking.
When you say about Camille, did you write from your daughter's point of view, or did you do extra research? Being a mixed race?
Yeah, a bit of both. Certainly, some of her experiences, my daughter's experiences, feed that character, no doubt about it. But I deliberately set her as a French woman in Paris, who grew up wondering where her mother really came from. And this whole thing of it being exotic and, you know, in this child's imagination. And so then I was able to give the background to her mother, her Trinidadian-born mother, how she got to be in Paris and everything like that. So, but yeah, in answer to the question, without a doubt, the whole thing of being, not necessarily just mixed race, but this whole thing of, well, where do I actually come from? You know, what is my identity? It's very important when you're a teenager, you start secondary school and the tribes start forming, you know, and sometimes if you're mixed, you don't feel like you fit in. I mean, by the time my daughter got into Trinidad, by the time she got to secondary school, she'd been to Trinidad a few times, and she had a very authentic Caribbean experience. But it wasn't one which was necessarily accepted by people with Caribbean roots at her school. It was my son. It was a really confusing, difficult time for her to find that identity. And she has shown an incredible amount of strength to become the woman that she is now, and in a way that's the same as Camille.
Okay, alright. Can we have a round of applause? Right, gosh, a lot of thought-provoking stuff, presentations. I hope it's really sort of inspired you and given you some insight on things, and hopefully get you up here publishing or sharing your book. So that's what that's the goal, hopefully. Any questions at all? Okay, so this is
one point that I found that the common thread between all the writers. I have to say, spirit talking now. Spirit talking. It's belonging. That's the word that comes. Yeah, it's it.
yeah.
Belonging.